David Freed is the Republican nominee who wants to be the state attorney general, facing off against northeastern Pennsylvania Democrat Kathleen Kane. We have not talked with Kathleen Kane since the primary election because Kathleen Kane won't talk with us. We used to talk to her all the time. Then we started asking Kathleen Kane a whole lot of hard questions, and Kathleen Kane did not want to answer those questions, and she disappeared. So we were pleased when David Freed's people asked if we would speak with him, and we said, sure. David Freed, thanks for calling the show.
Well, thanks for having me on.
I bet you didn't know anything about Kathleen Kane refusing to talk with us, did you?
Not until I read a piece that you wrote today. No, I didn't know that.
It's a weird scenario, being that we are, in fact, the voice of political movement in northeastern Pennsylvania, and she has curtailed that discussion, but that's her decision, that's her choice, and we're happy to talk with you since you're running against her.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you having me on.
What are the odds at this point? What are your polls saying? Do you care about polls? Are you looking at polls? Are you leading in this race already?
The only polls I've seen are polls that she did a poll, and then Public Policy Polling did a poll. That was a couple months ago. I'm not going to worry about polls until the fall. We're out there working hard every day. I think it's going to be a tight race either way.
At this point, if you start to weigh qualifications, her against you, who is more qualified as a prosecutor, you or her?
I firmly believe that I am. It's the main reason I'm running. And frankly, as I look to get in this race on both sides, as it came down to the people that were getting in the race, I believe that I was the most qualified candidate, which is the reason I got in the first place. And it's my breadth of experience in the civil practice, and mostly over the last 12 years as first assistant DA, and following that, the last 7 years as district attorney in Cumberland County in south central Pennsylvania.
Did you handle cases personally during the time you were DA down there, David? Were you a prosecutor in the courtroom?
I've done that for most of my career. Since I've taken over as DA, I've tried a couple of murder cases. I don't get into court nearly as much as I used to, unfortunately, but as an assistant, I was in court all the time, and I've tried civil cases to juries. I've done a lot of work in court over my time.
What kind of support do you find, not just within the Republican Party? I imagine that you can pretty much count on your brother and sister Republicans. What kind of support are you looking for from independent voters and maybe even Democrats?
Well, absolutely. In order to win, I need to get the support of independents and Democrats, and we've been able to do that over time as Republican candidates in Pennsylvania. That's the only way we get elected. So the explanation we're given to voters, I almost said jurors, but the explanation we're given to voters about experience and qualifications really seems to draw a good response. I'm getting a good feeling when I'm out there working, and when I have time to explain what I've done, what I intend to do. I feel strongly, probably like any prosecutor would. If I can meet every voter, I think I'd get their vote. But that's not necessarily possible, so I got to be out there raising money to get the message out in the fall.
We in northeastern Pennsylvania are currently in the midst of an ongoing federal public corruption investigation. It's been going on for several years now. So far, we've had more than 40 elected and appointed public officials and their business bagmen either admit guilt and go to prison or be found guilty and go to prison. We've had judges, school board members, county commissioners, and there's no end in sight. In Harrisburg, obviously, Bonusgate and the public corruption probe launched by the Attorney General's office at the time, Tom Corbett, also seems to be ongoing. Pennsylvania is a problem with political corruption. What's your take on what's happening with political corruption, and what's your take on how you plan to continue to fight political corruption?
Well, it's amazing to me that after all this time, people still haven't gotten the message. I'm proud of what the Attorney General's office did. I'm proud of what the Middle District office has done up there in the Northeast with the judges in Luzerne County and the other things that are going on. And we're going to keep pressing ahead. You get on the wrong side of the law, you're going to have an issue with me. I hope the message has been received, but, if we look at the history of this Commonwealth, it's probably pretty likely people are going to try to get around the rules again. There was a pretty significant conviction of a state legislator out in the southwestern part of the state named Jeff Habe a number of years ago, and people still didn't get the message after that. And all the bonus gate stuff, all the things that happened with the Kids for Cash in Luzerne County, you hope against hope that people receive the message. I think we might be naive to think that they have. So we're going to have to keep going after them. When we get the evidence, we've got to follow where it leads.
Is it difficult for a nominee of a particular political party, whether it be Democrat or Republican, is it difficult for a nominee, once elected to the office of the chief law enforcement officer in Pennsylvania, the Attorney General, is it difficult to stay away from politics? Because obviously you've got people who feel that you're indebted to them, they've contributed to your campaign. How do you continue to be that advocacy for justice?
That's a great question. It's an elected office, and elected offices are by nature political. But if you're running to be chief law enforcement officer, just like DA, Attorney General, you have to do the right thing for the right reason. That's the oath that you take. You put your right hand up, you swear to support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That means doing the right thing for the right reason. I had an issue my first week on the job. And I was warned. It was interesting. My predecessor said to me, they're going to come after you right away to try to get you to change things that were done that they didn't like when I was DA. And it happened. First week on the job. And I'll tell you what, I struggled with it for a day or so because there were essentially threats made, not physical threats, but political threats. If you don't do this, we'll do this. You won't have support. And ultimately, I made what I believe is the right decision. I didn't knuckle under those threats. And I'll tell you, it's been pretty easy since then. It really has. And I go out there. I have to raise money to be in the game. I'm doing that, and people need to know that I'm happy for their support, and I appreciate it. But it will not make me do anything other than the right thing. That's what you have to do in this job. And if that dues my prospects, then so be it. But I've got a record of doing that, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
So when you take a look at what is ahead of you as the clock continues to tick on to November, what is it that you believe you've got to ratchet up? What is it that you believe you've got to concentrate mostly on? And do you expect to be up in northeastern Pennsylvania anytime soon?
Absolutely. I don't have the schedule in front of me. I was up there a couple of weeks ago, and I know we're coming back in a few weeks. What I've got to continue to do is what I've been doing, which is I start most weeks in my office. I have a great experienced team, and technology allows me to be there even when I'm not there. And then I'm out there in every part of the state. As I talk to you right now, I'm looking at Lake Erie. I'm in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I'm running hard, man. I'm going to work as hard as I can until November 6th, and when that jury of citizens comes back, the decision will be made, and we'll move on from there. But it's really been a neat experience to get around the state, talk to voters, see what's out there. We're going to keep hammering that message on experience and qualifications, my record, my background, and we're going to see how it plays.
During the primary election, Patrick Murphy was running real hard against Kathleen Kane, and he was taking issue with a lot that had substance in terms of who she is and what she's accomplished. Now that she's the nominee, Patrick Murphy is solidly in her corner, something that I understand from a political perspective, but do not understand in terms of integrity and honesty. I had a conversation with a colleague of mine today, and keep in mind, I'm a left-wing Democrat. My colleague is a right-wing Republican, and we had a good discussion about what we think you have to do to beat her. I believe you got to take it to her. My colleague, the Republican, says, no, he doesn't have to. What's your take on that?
Well, I think I've got to spend time talking about me and my record. I don't think I gain anything by tearing anybody down. Now, having said that, we're going to lay out the contrast. We believe there are clear contrasts. We're going to lay out the contrast in this race. What I've done, what I intend to do. I didn't get in this to lose, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to win. I don't. Prosecutors, true prosecutors do the tough cases. If you believe you have the evidence and it's the right thing to do, you go forward. And I've won tough cases. I've lost tough cases. So I want to work as hard as I can. The most important thing to me is my reputation. I have a reputation I've established as DA, and I want to make sure I preserve that. But within the bounds of decency and propriety, I'm going to work as hard as I can, and I'm going to be tough. You have to be.
I think that you have to be as well. And I'm somebody who doesn't shy away from hardcore politics because I view facts as evidence. I view facts, whether it be what you've accomplished, what you haven't accomplished, that's evidence. And it should be weighed on those scales of justice to see what the voters need to know to make an informed decision. Do you anticipate debates with Kathleen Kane?
I don't know that there are any scheduled. I'd be surprised if we didn't.
Yeah, I would hope that you do.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I'd be happy to do it.
I'm going to be writing a couple of columns about this race, and I think there's some real legitimate questions that need to be asked of her and of you. So we'll look forward to talking with you again. Don't be a stranger. We like to stay in touch to find out how the campaign's going, and when you get up this way, let us know you're coming, David Freed.
I will do. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. Good to talk to you. We'll talk about him when we come back from this.